This is going to be an introduction video to our newly released SDK. So we recently published our SDK and you can access it from our GitLab page. From the official GitLab page, there is a repository called Slurpit SDK and you can clone this project. We have a lot of examples in it. You can install the SDK using pip and you can start working with Slurpit using Python as opposed to graphical user interface. So why would we want to use Python or SDK as opposed to GUI? Because GUI looks simpler and more straightforward, and there seems to be no reason to use Python or SDK to interact with this software. Well, actually, there are a lot of reasons. For example, what if you want to use some Slurpit functionalities alongside with some other functionalities from other platforms such as Netbox or in the future other new platforms? Or what if you want to get the output in a certain way? What if you want to get the output, write it inside a CSV file or a text file, or maybe get the output in a certain way, for example, in different shapes, or maybe colorize the output, maybe use the output for data analysis. Basically, it is code, right? It is Python, it is code, and the amount of options and possibilities is actually unlimited. But with graphical user interface, any functionality that you want to use, it has to be first implemented, developed by our developers, then you're able to use it. But with SDK, since it's code, you can just grab it and do anything you want with it. So this is going to be our repository. We have a lot of examples here. We can actually go over the examples in this video and in the future videos. And there is also the instruction here on how to install it and how to set up API endpoints and API keys. Now, I'm just going to show you what we have to do. You go to code and clone with HTTPS, and I'm going to go to my terminal. And here I'm going to say git clone, and there we have it. So I am going to clone this repository first. It is now cloned, so I'm going to do ls cd into Slurpit SDK. Now I'm going to open it with VS Code. So before doing anything here, we have to first install this SDK. And the recommended method is to use Python virtual environments, then install the SDK. But I'm just going to install it in my global environment. And this is how you install it. I have already installed it. So for me, it says requirement already satisfied. But this is how you install the SDK. There we go. We open the project. And the first thing we want to do is go to examples. And we have a bunch of folders here. Basically, we divided our scripts based on the functionalities. For example, all the device API functionalities are inside the device API folder and so on. And functionalities are things like creating a device, deleting a device, and anything associated with devices. So the easiest thing I can do is open this up, get devices.py, and basically this is going to retrieve the devices and their IDs. And I have to tell you that these Python scripts are well documented, and we have tried to put as many useful comments as we possibly could to make it easier for you to use these scripts. And also the way that everything is structured using the functions and basically the way these scripts are structured are based on PEP, and we follow the standards. So I have here an endpoint, and this is just our sandbox, which is correct. And about this, I'm not sure. So with API key, you have to generate it from the GUI. So let's go to GUI. And from here, you go to Administrator API Keys, and I can actually test this out, copy, and put it here. There we go. It is here. So the name suggests something else, Netbox integration, but it doesn't matter. It's just a name. You can name it anything you want. You can add API keys like that, give it a name. Let's actually do that. I'm going to put it maybe SDK test. And there is no comment needed. I'm going to select all access and submit. And from here, I can grab it and put it inside my script. Since I've already done that, there is no need to do anything else. We have the API key. This is the endpoint. Again, if you're using the Slurpit somewhere else, maybe locally or somewhere on the cloud, make sure that you change the host name. So here, if I run the script, I'm going to retrieve all the devices and their IDs. Here, we're using the hostname attribute and the ID attribute. So the hostname will be attached to ID. I am going to run the script. And there we go. We retrieved all devices and their associated identifier numbers. So here the IDs are useful because sometimes you want to retrieve something based on a device's ID, or maybe you want to delete a device, a certain device. You have to know what the ID for that specific device is. Keep in mind that whatever you see here, all these functions that you see in different scripts are actually doing what REST APIs do. They're using REST API calls in the backend, and they are actually reaching a REST API endpoint. But this is just something that's abstracted to you, and you don't have to worry about dealing with REST APIs. You deal with what we have here using custom functions. So another example would be if I go to get device underscore df, it would get a data frame of devices using the API. And let me run the script. And now you see that we got the devices, their IDs, plus some other information such as their FQDN, their last seen, create date, and change dates. So that's all I wanted to cover in this video. I will see you in the next one.